Imagine waking up every day to the sound of rain battering a tin roof, your stomach growling louder than the storm outside. And the only thing between you and despair is a rickety cart stacked with bruised apples and a dream no one else believes in. This was James Carter's life, a man who clawed his way out of the shadows of poverty, not with luck or handouts, but with grit, a street vendor's hustle, and a fire that refused to die. Born into a crumbling council estate in East London, James didn't have a silver spoon. He didn't even have a spoon. His story isn't just about survival, it's about turning a muddy corner into a stage, a handful of fruit into a fortune, and a life of nothing into a legacy of purpose. Buckle up, because this journey from the grime of the streets to the glow of meaning is going to hit you right in the chest. James grew up in a world where hope was a luxury few could afford. His father, William Carter, walked out when James was 6, leaving behind a note that said, "I can't do this," and a mother, Eleanor, who stitched clothes until her fingers bled to keep the lights on. The estate was a maze of gray concrete, broken windows, and shouting matches that echoed through thin walls. By 12, James was scrounging for coins in gutters to buy bread, his small hands trembling as he handed them over to a shopkeeper who barely looked up. School was a distant dream. Dropped out at 14 to help his mum, who'd started coughing up blood from years of damp air and exhaustion. Life was a fist fight, and James was losing. But something flickered inside him, a stubborn spark that whispered he wasn't meant to just fade away. At 16, James found his first lifeline, a battered fruit cart abandoned behind a market, splintered wood and rusted wheels. But to him, it was gold. He dragged it home under a bruised sky, rain soaking through his threadbare jacket, and spent nights scrubbing it clean with Eleanor watching from the window, her frail frame wrapped in a shawl. He started small, apples from a grocer's discount bin, sold on a corner near the tube station. People hurried past, heads down, but James stood tall, his voice cutting through the drizzle, hawking fruit like it was his ticket out. And in a way, it was. A pound here, a fiver there. He saved every coin, piling them in a tin under his bed, dreaming of something bigger while the world tried to drown him out. Years scraped by, and James turned 21. Eleanor's cough had worsened, and the hospital bills piled up like bricks on his chest. The cart became his battlefield. He'd wake at 4 a.m., load it with apples, oranges, whatever he could afford, and push it through East London's chaos, dodging buses, swearing at the wind, smiling at strangers who'd toss him a nod or a coin. One day, a woman named Margaret Evans stopped, a sharp-eyed grandmother with a floral scarf and a basket of her own. She bought an apple, then came back the next day, and the next. Soon she was telling her friends about the lad with the cart, and James's corner grew crowded. Margaret saw something in him, a quiet strength, and her belief became a mirror he hadn't dared look into before. Then came the storm that almost broke him. Eleanor passed away one bitter winter night, her hand cold in his as the rain hammered the roof. James was 25, alone, and the cart felt heavier than ever. He could have quit. Plenty did, but he didn't. He pushed it out the next morning, eyes red, jaw set, selling fruit through tears no one saw. The regulars noticed, though, Margaret especially. She started bringing him tea in a thermos, slipping him an extra quid, with a wink, and slowly the corner became more than a spot to survive. It became a community. James added bananas, then pears, then little handwritten signs with prices scrawled in chalk. He wasn't just a vendor anymore. He was a fixture, a heartbeat in a place that had forgotten how to feel. By 30, James had saved enough to rent a tiny stall at a proper market. Wooden planks, a tarp roof, and a sign that read, "Carter's Fresh Picks." The cart still stood proudly beside it, a relic of his war. He'd learned the game, buying in bulk, haggling with suppliers, charming customers with a grin that hid a decade of scars. Margaret, now a loyal friend, would sit nearby knitting, her presence a quiet anchor. Others joined too. Tom Bradley, a burly ex-mechanic turned fruit buyer, and young Sophie Grant, a student who'd sketched James at work for her art class. The stall wasn't just a business, it was a family forged from concrete and rain. And James, he was finding purpose, one apple at a time. The real turning point came at 35. A local reporter, intrigued by whispers of the vendor who beat the odds, wrote a story about James. It spread, first in the papers, then online, then across borders. People in Manchester, Toronto, even Sydney started talking about the man who turned a cart into a kingdom. Orders poured in, schools wanting fruit for kids, cafes needing suppliers. James hired Tom to help, bought a van, and expanded to 3 stalls across London. He wasn't rich, not by millionaire standards, but he was free. Free from the estate's grip, free from the weight of nothing. He'd visit Eleanor's grave with fresh oranges, whispering thanks to the woman who'd sown his first dream. Now at 40, James Carter stands behind a bustling market stall, gray streaking his hair, hands rough but steady. The cart's still there, parked like a trophy, and around him are faces, Margaret, Tom, Sophie, who stuck by him. He's not just selling fruit, he's selling hope, proof that purpose isn't handed to you. It's built, bruised, and battled for. From a boy scavenging coins to a man feeding a community, James's story carries a profound moral. No matter how deep the hole you're born into, you can climb out if you hold fast to your spark and refuse to let the world snuff it out. As the sun sets over his stall, casting gold on the apples, James's life stands as a testament. Poverty may shape your start, but only you decide your finish.